Hello and welcome to the Swim Brief. I am joined, as always, by that weird computer voice that says recording in progress. Actually, that's just started on Tuesday. I don't know what that is. But also joined by I didn't come up with something for this week, Joel, so I'm just going to say hello to you. Hey, Joel.
Hey, that works too. Good to talk to you.
Oh, man, this is so disappointing. Yeah,
it's all right.
All right, I'll find some way to make fun of you later.
Edit something in later.
I promise. Yeah. I don't want to let you down. And I know this kind of like you told me in an email, you said like, hey, that part where you make fun of my life's work at the beginning of the podcast, that's sort of like the highlight of my week. And so I'm sorry that I didn't come up with anything, but I'll do better. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. And from the Olympic trials preparation bunker outside of Houston, Texas, Erik Weiken. Erik, is the bunker getting converted after trials into something else? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, I'm just gonna take the boards off the windows and unlock the doors on occasion. But until then, everything is contained.
Right. Do you have hundreds of thousands of dollars of suits in your possession yet?
No, just tens of thousands.
Oh, just tens of thousands. Okay.
Yeah. That's next week. There will be hundreds, but that'll be in an undisclosed hotel in Omaha.
Yeah. Well, we're not disclosing where you live either, so that people can break in and steal your tech suits. So we've got a number of topics we want to get through this week. We got a couple of documentaries coming out about swimming. We want to talk about Dave Geyer at Louisiana State University and his resignation. And then finally, we want to do something similar to what we talked about with Michael Andrew. We want to talk about the great 32-year-old. Oh, this is another. I mean, it's sort of a blend of two topics because it's Michael Andrew and old guys swimming fast, older guys. So 32-year-old Ari Pekka Liukkonen, that's my best Finnish pronunciation, winning a Euro title in the 50 free with one dolphin kick. So let's get to these documentaries first. So there's two, right? There's one that follows three American swimmers. And already I'm blanking on the name of it. The Water is My Sky. Thank you. And then there's a separate Australian one that has interviews with Thorpe, Kyle Chalmers, Bronte Campbell, I believe. So I want to go to you first, Erik. We haven't watched. You can actually watch The Water is My Sky now. If you want to pay $20, you can watch the whole thing. We've only watched the trailers. Give me some of your impressions looking at these two documentaries coming out basically concurrently.
First, it's fantastic to see it. It's, we've had a couple of them here, there with Missy Franklin and a couple other documentaries, featuring swimming in African-American cultures here. And The Water is My Sky has been around for a while. They were funding, they were trying to get things going for several years, obviously with featuring the people that they have in the documentary. It's been lying in wait for some time. So for it to finally come out and just shine some light on some of the aspects of swimming is fantastic. And it's coming out at a great time, being delayed with everything and coming out right here before trials. I was not at all aware of the Aussie one. And that one I find to be pretty intriguing because of what they're talking about, because of some of the very candid comments that were in the trailer from, Campbell specifically. I think it was her. She talked about this pretty much being it. Like she's on her way out.
Right.
And then the Thorpe stuff was something that any swim fan who's been aware of anything knows that there was a lot going on with that. But for him to, sit down in that chair and I haven't heard a lot from Kyle Chalmers as a swimmer, other than some of the interviews that he's given and his dual life as an athlete and picking swimming over, I think it was Aussie rules football, which is definitely a safer bet for his brain and skull. If you've ever watched any kind of Aussie rules football clips on YouTube, it is a scary sight nonetheless. But I think, overall, I'm really excited to see these things come out. I think it's going to put more people who are interested in more of a long format type of situation with sports to be interested in swimming, because swimming really is just, it's a long format thing. You train all the time. You have all this stuff going on. Meets are really long. And it maybe it's tapping into a population that has the patience to watch a really great mile on TV or something. I don't know.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of both of them, specifically the Aussie one, because it seems very unfiltered.
Yeah, the Aussie one has more star power for sure. I left Cody Simpson out of there.
I forgot.
Cody Simpson is in there as well. So you got to draw for people maybe who don't necessarily follow the sport of swimming in the form of Cody. We see a little bit of podcast star Brett Hawk coaching Cody in there and talking about that. I love, you mentioned Bronte Campbell's comments about like, this is it, but she leaves a little bit like, I don't know what's on the other side. And you juxtapose that. You have Thorpe's comments where he goes, yeah, on the other side, I was completely lost. Like all of a sudden, like swimming was my whole life. And then swimming stopped. And like, what do I do? We know that that was definitely a contributing factor to a pretty significant mental health crisis for Thorpe. That Grant Hackett has had similar struggles as well. So I am, I guess excited is probably not the right term, but I'm definitely interested to see some of that stuff portrayed on screen, because I think it's a really important discussion to be had. The American one, Water is My Sky. I mean, Tom Wilkins, I'm wondering if there's new ground to be covered for people who read Gold in the Water, right? We got a pretty good exhaustive account of Tom Wilkins and his, Olympic heartbreak and his comeback and all that stuff. Really interested to see Connor Jager on there. I didn't actually immediately recognize the female swimmer who was featured in the trailer. Did you know who it was, Eric? No, you don't know either.
No, I'm not really sure.
So we got to do a little bit more research. One more thing I wanted to note on here, since we have a few sort of more biased people on this topic. The chyron for Ian Thorpe in that trailer goes, Ian, or I think it says Thorpe, greatest Australian Olympian ever, is like the chyron. Are we all agreed that Ian Thorpe is the greatest Australian Olympian ever? Joel, are you on board with that?
Well, at first I enjoy how Australians, like, you can tell it's Australian just because they drop whatever the last half is and just put a Y on it.
Right.
So Austin, Thorpe, Truckee, all those things like that.
Hackety? No, they don't do that. No, that's really ridiculous.
Well, again, there are people trying to sell a movie. So yeah, if I'm selling a movie and I want people to go watch it, I'll call him the greatest Olympian ever. But obviously you go back and probably go, Shane Gould was pretty good.
Don Frazier.
Don Frazier, pretty good. I think Thorpe, though, kind of hits it at the right time where media was kind of really taking off. I've only visited Australia once, and I mean, hey, there's billboards with swimmers on it. What the heck?
Right.
And so that's the thing, is all of a sudden, you get people in a different generation where there's all these multimedia facets versus like, Shane Gould, like one little black and white TV is probably all you really got to see her on. And then, so I mean, they can call it whatever they want. It's like, just get someone to watch it. Yeah.
So are you interested? What do you think, Joel?
Yeah. Obviously I want more swimming movies, because then when people who constantly ask me what are my top 10 favorite swimming movies of all time, then Swim Fan will finally be pushed out of the top 10. So right now it's moved down to like 8th, I guess. Second snarky comment would be like, you can tell the relevancy of a sport by the inverse amount of conversation it comes when you hear someone is in your sport. Like right. Tim Duncan was a swimmer. Oh my God. Right. Everyone just kind of gets into a little titter about that. So going in with those snarky thoughts already in my head, I started watching these clips and I was really pretty intrigued by it. I love the idea of like people starting to come out and talk. Obviously, like on the Australian side, I think Ian Thorpe's a really interesting character because of all the things that have gone on in his life, all the perceived success, and all the times that we kind of hold up, this could be you, kid, you could be, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, that pot of gold isn't what I thought it was going to be, and we don't give kids a parachute to like, what happens when you get to that level and you've achieved your goals? and you're 26, now retire, move on. You know, same for any professional athlete. We retire and we're old at such an old age as an athlete. But looking at the American one, just some really compelling stories and just the little bits I saw as far as like the Melvin Stewart talking about Pablo Morales. I saw like Tom Wilkins little clips, things like that. Just some really cool stuff. And the thought of like how swimming, like in a sense, is kind of a terrible sport when we're holding Olympics up as the end all be all. Obviously with Tokyo being something that might be taken away. But it's like I used to talk to the swimmers, like when we swam for 4 years at a university, it'd be like your career is, 2006-2010. And we look at that dash and we don't really think about what happened all that 4 years. And so the same thing with the Olympics is you've got 4 years of just training and things like that. And so if all you're doing is slogging through, that's 4 years of your life spent for that one moment you're hoping to make the team. You're hoping to be in the top two to make it to the Olympics. And so it's kind of one of those things where we kind of like, we're the ultimate, like, I am not living in the moment at all kind of sport. I'm thinking 4 years down the line kind of sport.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking up in the background who the female athlete was. I'm reading that it's Taylor Garcia, who swam at the University of Michigan, grew up in. I think it's the interesting part with her is, maybe we're going to have a conversation coming out of this film about, she's very explicit that like basically she got approached by her coach at age 12 and was like, hey, if we're going to do this, you got to make sacrifices.
Yeah. You give up all the other sports that you enjoy. Most of your friends will now have to be on this swim team, and you've got 10 years and your payout will be, I have no idea. You can't promise anything. 10 years from now, I don't know, maybe you get a shoulder injury and, we never hear from you again.
Right. So it's let's see if they can coax the $20 out of me. I'm excited that the Australian documentary is going to be on Amazon Prime. So
there we go.
Something I already subscribed to.
4-part series. I'm like, I can't believe it's going to be a 4-part series. It's like, it's that in depth. It's really exciting to see what's going to come out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's some really interesting personalities. That'll be interesting.
One last claim I want to evaluate here, I want to get your guys' opinion on it, is I think I'm listening to Bronte Campbell talk on it, and she says, you train 6 days a week, 50 hours. And now am I just a rube that thinks that like elite athletes don't train quite that much? Does that seem like an exaggeration to either of you? Eric?
Thinking between gym sessions and maybe counting, I guess, massage sessions, PT, she's dealing with injuries or whatever it is, or maybe it's just rounding up, just counting meetings.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next topic. Let's talk about Dave Geyer at LSU. Eric, just to acknowledge off the top, you got a little bit of a personal connection to this as somebody that you know. I don't know him. Joel knows him. Joel doesn't know him. Thank you. Joel and I do not know him.
Right.
You could just assume pretty much off the top of your head, listening audience, that any of these people, Joel does not know them except
no clue.
Right.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, he feels like he can talk about them and, like comment on everything.
Love, hate. That's all I have. I have nothing in the middle. I am just a dichotomy. Yeah.
So he resigns from LSU, and Eric, you noted he's still the coach of the club program there. So talk a little bit about that dynamic.
Yeah. So, in all honesty, Dave is the head coach for a Speedo team down in Louisiana that happens to be a part of my territory as a representative of Speedo, and being able to work with Dave and just looking at the transition of this whole last year, the things that have been going on, and where the team is as far as the club and its growth and how things are looking, it to me in this situation looks like it's an opportunity for that a further investment in that and making it work. And that's really, kind of the long and short of the commenting that I can necessarily do on it. And in terms of college coaching at large, and looking at what we're seeing, across the nation with a lot of different things with coaches, whether they're retiring completely from coaching. We just saw this in Illinois with another coach leaving for the insurance world. I was speaking to another club coach who just had an age group coach, just not doing well with the lifestyle, is choosing to be a firefighter over being an age group coach. And that's literally a burnout possibility, and it's such a crazy thing to see a lot of these things happening around and what's going on, and to see, coming back to Dave's situation with LSU, and I know he's been there for a long time, and the passion is there for college coaching. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with the club here this summer, and how this can be an investment in taking this Olympic bump and pushing this club into it's a good place now, but even better place here for the long term, because there needs to be good swimming down in that area. I mean, right. There really is. There's a lot of good clubs, but the more there is, the better. So,
I honestly, if you told me I had to choose between being a club coach in Louisiana and coaching Louisiana State University, I might choose being a club coach in Louisiana. I think it's very, very hard to be the head coach of LSU in the SEC. I think that there's definitely some recruiting challenges that go with that. It seems to me, just from the outside looking in, that Dave has a bright future. I mean, I was shocked to read this article and see that he's only 42 years old, but he's been coaching. He got 11 years as head coach at LSU. So it seems to me he'll have a lot of opportunities should he want, to do something other than coach the club program there. And I do think there's a part of this that's just kind of an outdated model. I mean, I think we saw, like I've just observed from afar, Dave Salo make the transition from, USC head coach and head club coach to just coaching club. And of course, now he's coming back as a assistant coach, but I think he's, that's very much on his own time schedule and terms and stuff. I think he just seems much happier, healthier when you see him in an interview. Like, he just looks way, way better. I think that the college stuff has grown to, I don't see how you can successfully, I don't think anyone really could successfully do both of those jobs really, really well. So it could be a positive to do that. My heart goes out to the assistant coaches, because as you see with all this tumult and change, the longer it goes, the more, the harder it is to find a new chair to sit in, you know what I mean? And so this is deeper into the season. Some of these people probably own houses and are married and have kids. I mean, it's going to be like a big process for them to find a new job and move somewhere. And that'll be really, really tough. Joel, what kind of uninformed perspective do you have on this?
I think, I got lots of uninformed perspectives. I think there's a lot you can look at all this. I always liked looking at these stories, no matter who the coach was, because you just move the variables around, take the name out, and you can put in your own kind of circumstances. And there's a lot that, you guys just brought up. One is no one ever talks about the assistant coaches, and coaching college is like a merry-go-round. It's like, as soon as it starts up, you're going to wait. You're going to wait a full year for all the horses to stop. Everyone gets off, and now you got a chance to get back on again. So especially when it starts getting this late in the game. And then also, we talked about a while ago with this SC coach in his pay, how his salary got into swim, and we're like six figures. I got 8, because you're like, what do you mean you're saying 6 figures isn't a big deal? It's like, well, 6 figures is a big deal. But I mean, if that guy was running a Fortune 500 company, you'd be like, why is he taking that low of a salary to run this company? The same thing with this is, again, he could probably make more money off of his club team than, if you're locked into a salary, this is what you get. Again, I don't know the reason why he quit. I'm just, again, you take the variables out. So money could be a variable. The other is I read the comment by the athletic director. And he said, Coach Geyer represented LSU with class and made countless contributions to our athletics program, both in and out of the pool. He'll always be a valued member of the LSU community. And that's just 100% AD speak where, well, we probably, again, I don't know him. It's like, but it could be, we offered him a chance to fall on the sword and go do something else if he wanted to. Because again, the way ADs talk now, it's so vanilla and bland that you have to kind of sift through a lot of that. And when they say countless contributions, like, I'm retiring, you could count a couple, couldn't you? but they didn't. And so there's one of the problems right there. It's like, man, 18 SEC titles. That's one thing you could have counted, but he didn't. So again, that's where those ADs are thinking. ADs are usually ex-football coaches. And they think wins, losses. They'll think dual meet record. How about a little something? And there's just so many things that you can get moved out the door for now. Exit interviews, wins, losses, budget, whatever they want. Again, it's you think like, wow, you've got a maid when you're at this level. It's like, no, you can get, again, it's the SEC. All of a sudden you have a bad weekend and your key card doesn't work at the office door and you're like, just keep swiping. Guys, I can't seem to get into my door. It's like, how come my cell phone got taken? What?
Right.
And that's it. And then all of a sudden you read this again, I don't know if that's the case. I just know SEC, man, they're not, everything changes on a dime. You lose to Auburn, good luck.
That's AD for, I told him to shove off immediately. Like,
yeah. Again, we're as uninformed as anyone out there, but
right.
We're enough informed about how ADs work, how schools work, that again, every one of us, you can be sacked at any time in a college coaching position, just by the AD. Also, ADs move, no one is safe anymore. Head coaches move, no assistant coach is safe anymore.
Yeah. All right. Let's turn finally to the wonderful land of saunas, Finland, which, by the way, I want to note off the top, it is not a Scandinavian country for anybody who's curious about that. It's a Nordic country. It's not Scandinavian because Scandinavian countries speak a mutually intelligible set of languages, which the Finnish do not. They have their own very special, very hard for everybody else to make any sense of language over there. But this is a guy, Ari Pekka Liukkonen, has been basically a 50-free specialist for the majority of his senior career. I had the perspective of when I was over in Denmark, he was winning national titles, but, he was kind of like the best guy in Finland, but not good enough to be really competitive internationally. I think he's right around like a 22 low, setting national records. He went 21-6. He won European championship. And at 32 years old for the first time, which I find very impressive. But what I also find impressive in the context of, we talk about sort of atypical styles of swimming, he's got very much an old school sprint freestyle. Like if you watch a video of Matt Biondi winning the 100 free at the Olympics, and you don't know what to expect, you're going to be shocked at how quickly he breaks out and starts swimming. Like he just pushes off the wall and starts swimming. There's nothing that happens. So it's very, very different to what we normally see. Erik, what do you think we can learn from somebody going in a time machine like this in regards to sprint freestyle?
At some point, you have to cut your losses. You have to know what you're really great at. I mean, you can continue to work on it, obviously, but when it comes to that age and that level of swimming, there are certain things that work for you or maybe not. And he's never had an underwater. He's tried. We don't know his background. He spent 2-3 years trying to develop this underwater component of his 50, and it just wasn't working. The numbers didn't lie, and it was just so much easier for him to just break out and go. And that's okay. Now, it's atypical. It's hard for any of us to just watch it and it not just be weird to us. The whole one kick for Michael Andrew versus seeing all of the years and years of footage of other people doing 2 kicks per stroke, like butterfly and things like that. But it's good to see. It's good for other people to see, and hopefully coaches who are really set in their ways in terms of making kids do underwaters to the 15-meter mark when they shouldn't be doing underwaters really at all, I think is just it's kind of good, because we need to question the way that we do things. We need to question how those get fat. It's the same thing you're seeing with 200 breaststrokers and 400 IMers dropping pullouts to get up and swim, because the trade-off for the oxygen, exchange is not worth it, especially if you don't have the kind of pullout that you need to be able to be successful. So that's a little bit more difficult in short course, because it can be such an advantage. But when it comes to long course, on that last wall, does a breaststroker, with bad pullouts really need to spend all of that oxygen trying to get outside the flags when they should just get up and get into an efficient place? And that's where he is. I don't know enough about where his 50 free has been in the past to say that his breakout could have been a little better. It looked a little bit like the submarine stuff that you see from the old action films. But, aside from that, it's 21.6. It's not slow. No. He's got old man strength going for him already at 32. The same thing happened with Anthony Irvin, just a lot of experience, and it worked for him. So I'm excited to see if we can watch it in finals in Tokyo. I think it'll be a great difference to see when you've got Caleb Dressel versus, Ari, and the vast difference in the way they start that race. So
no, I look at it and I just think, like, I've always thought that there are far too many swimmers. I mean, this is just sort of a thing that for some reason we cannot figure out in the sport of swimming, because to stop just like stop having every swimmer imitating a certain style of swimming. Like, I have many people that I coach that should not be dolphin kicking when they push off a wall. Like, they should not. It does not help them to go faster. It, in fact, not only takes oxygen from them, but it actually leads them to break out at a slower speed and start every length at a slower speed than they could possibly start, right? But many of them are emulating this anyway. I can relate as somebody who never could kick. Definitely never could dolphin kick. So basically, this whole segment is just because Ari is my hero. Like, I always wanted to go really fast in a 50 free without being able to dolphin kick at all. And possibly,
There's hope for kids like you. There's hope.
That's right. There's still hope. I'm 37, right? I just start training. Just acknowledge what my strengths and my weaknesses are, and you'll see me in 2021. I think that'll, wait, this is 2021.
Yeah.
Dude, I got to work on that.
I just want to come back to sprinters. Yeah.
Yeah. Joel, what do you think about Ari Pekka?
I think part of the deal is I remember with Orlando when Shaquille O'Neal played, I think it was Van Gundy, where Shaquille's like hitting maybe 51% of his free throws. And so you get all the like basically swim coaches of the world. Why don't you guys work on free throws?
Right.
And finally you had a meltdown. I was like, dude, how much more time do you want us to put on free throws? What do you want us not to do? Do you want us to like not set game plans? We'll just work free throws all the time. And it's kind of the same thing with swimming, where like every coach like, geez, why don't you guys just do some dolphin kicking? Like whoever the Finnish coach, they never did it. I think the thing, what I liked about like Bill Boomer was it was kind of the introduction of the idea of some physics that come into swimming. We've always talked about like the physiology. We just started talking about like hydrodynamics, and part of underwater dolphin that works so well is for a shorter, denser body. It's like a penguin's awesome underneath the water.
Right.
That kind of shape. This dude is 6'10", really long torso. It's like maybe that body doesn't move as well as we'd like to think it does underneath the water. The second thing is, again, he's probably tried it. And third is one of the things is for every dolphin kick, if you have a really good dolphin kick, you're knocking at least a full cycle. So like in butterfly, one full stroke or two hand hits off of that race. We're talking if the dude took two more strokes in the 50 freestyle, no one cares. He's just going that way. That's it. There's not even a turn involved. Just go there. That's your race strategy. Down. And so for him, maybe his heart beat a little bit longer. Big deal. It's a 50, it's 100. If it works for him, that's great. But again, it's the shorter, faster, the denser, smaller body. The torpedo shapes work really well underneath the water. The long 6'10" frames don't always work better underneath the water. For him, being on top of the water probably has less drag than for being underneath the water. It's kind of like what you're talking about, like with breaststroke pullouts, for instance. If you have I had kids that would have asthma, like, well, breaststroke's out because you can't do non-row pullouts. Like, well, why don't we just get rid of the pullout? It's not like the rule book that you have to do this. It's not in the rule book you have to dolphin kick. And everyone has a stopwatch. We can time 4, 5, 6 times. You can time 1,000 times. If it keeps coming out where the dolphin kick wasn't faster, I think you can go, let's move on. We got other stuff to work on.
Yeah, I mean, like, completely unanswerable questions, but like, I would like to know how many elite breaststrokers right now are people that would not have been breaststrokers 30 years ago because they would have been asked to do a big, wide, basically frog kick versus the very narrow sort of fast heels kick that they're doing right now. Then they would have been deemed like untalented at breaststroke because they couldn't do a big, wide kick properly.
My IM would have actually been an IM.
All right, let's not go that far, Eric. Come on.
Let's not start talking crazy. We're already talking uninformed. We don't have to talk crazy.
Hey, I had a 36-9 breaststroke split in high school. It was awful.
Well, hey, it's not completely awful. Breaststroke was my best stroke. I wasn't that much faster than that, Eric. Just remember, you were a Division I athlete, so just don't make us feel too bad over here. All right. So, I think this is all valid stuff on Ari Pekka. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do in the future. I think, it's going to be a very competitive 50 at the Olympics if we have them. So help us. All right. We got a little bit of time left this week, so let's go to our final points. I know you guys have been you've been working the midnight oil, getting some of these together, and I denied you the opportunity here a couple weeks in a row. So, Eric, you can go first.
It's getting down to the wire here for those who are on their way to trials this weekend is the last weekend to qualify, and speaking to a lot of my teams, there's a lot of anticipation and excitement for not only these last chances. So there's if you're anywhere near a long course meet this weekend, or you might want to tune in, whether it be through through the internet or if it's going to be actually in person, you could see some really exciting stuff happen for some young kids and even some of the older, like just trying to get that last trials in. But in any event, Wave 1 starts next week. If you've never been a part of one of these situations and in the future you happen to be nearby and you're able to volunteer, you can still volunteer for Wave 2 if you're in the area and you're vaccinated, I think. But it is an experience like none other. And just thinking about the opportunities that I had to be a part of a swimmer duel representing in 2012, and then volunteering and one of my own coaches making it in 2016, and just being in the practice area and seeing the best do what they do to prepare, and then standing on that pool deck in Omaha is like no experience you will ever have in swimming. So wherever it ends up being in 2024, try to find a way to get involved, because it will change your life. It's that exciting of an opportunity. So
you're making me sad that I don't get to go. Joel, what's up?
My thing is, I always kind of submit to you guys the idea of talking about like football players, basketball players, and things like that, because I
and we always reject it, except if it's Tom Brady.
And I think the deal is, it's kind of like when I grew up in the Midwest, all the trends got there after the coast kind of a thing. It's like, I'm still wearing bell bottoms well into the 80s.
Right.
The same thing I think happens in swimming is, like, I think we follow the trends of what's going on in the sports culture a little bit after everyone else, because we've got such an authoritative kind of culture within swimming. But you're looking at like LeBron, you're looking at all these other players. They're starting to take more control and more ownership of their sport and starting to dictate where they're going to go, how they're going to play, how they're going to train. And I think as like with documentaries and with YouTube and things like that coming out faster, kids are going to be online a lot more, and they're going to see how things are going. And just with all the like the social and cultural things that are going on too, how the kids want to be talked to has changed a lot as well. And we kind of joked around about college coaches and kicking of water balls and stuff like that. Stuff that, again, flew in the 80s. It's not going to work now. And you've got to really adapt a lot quicker now and being on top of these issues, being able to talk intelligently about them with the kids and kind of being able to say, this is why I believe in these things. And that's why I always talk about when you take the variables out is you want to be able to, like, again, express your ideas, like why you're doing things, what the methodology is. And this is the rationale I have versus the shut up and swim. This is my way, the highway, because it's not going to work. You want to attract talent to your team because that's what it is. It's going to be recruiting on all levels now, but both in transfer portals, recruiting for college, but also down to the club level. When you get a lot of clubs around you, you're ABC, always be recruiting, always out there bringing kids in. You have to be able to explain why you're doing things, not only to yourself, but to the parents, to the kids, to educate everyone. And so I think it's an interesting time to be coaching and definitely a very volatile time to be coaching.
Yeah. So you're saying there's hope for me in the next Olympic cycle. Somebody could listen to these YouTube videos and go, man, I really would love to have Chris DeSantis as my coach.
When they unearth these from the time capsule and you're 85.
Somebody be like, wow, he was ahead of his time. Or maybe he wasn't.
Well, think about how much hatred you get.
Yeah.
And you're ahead of your time because you are talking about kids. You're talking about mental health. You're talking about, positive coaching. I mean, you've been shelled, in a lot of these things and not blowing smoke or trying to kiss up because, you're going to make fun of me any second now anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Anyone that's kind of ahead of the curve always gets crushed. I remember seeing in the conferences with Bill Boomer, and he was just getting crushed. Oh, this is ridiculous. This is like an arts and craft project. I don't want to be arts and crafts. I want to train.
Yeah.
And the same thing here is like, the issues that people don't want to talk about, they're on the forefront, and it's better to be ahead of that than reacting to it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. And I want to give an update on something I posted, talked about earlier is the story of Brendan McHugh. I mentioned the 31-year-old lawyer who was trying to make a Wave 2 Olympic trials cut. He was, again, in action at the meet we competed in over the weekend. He shaved, much to his wife's chagrin, he shaved in their 2-week-old house that they had purchased and got rid of his old man beard and got up on the blocks and swam a couple hundred breaststrokes. He went 103 in both of them, which I find very impressive. He did actually make a Wave 1 trials cut, but he had said ahead of time that unless he qualified for Wave 2, which would have taken a 101.9, he was not going to go. He gave me a couple comments on that I want to share. Here is the first one. He said that his wife asked him, what are you going to do if you go 1020? He said, well, I'll just show up to work on Monday and move on with my life, which I thought was a very good answer. But then after he swam the second one, 103, he walked past me and he said, I don't know, maybe I'll get sad on Monday and enter Wave 1 anyway. So I don't know exactly what's happening. I suspect that owing to his real life and busyness and all that stuff, he's probably not going to Olympic trials. But just for people who had heard that story earlier, wanted to follow up on that. That is it for this week. Thank you guys all for listening. Thank you, Joel, for absorbing all my barbs. Thank you.
Still standing.
That's right. Thank you, Eric, for your wisdom and perspective. See, I'm nice to Eric. I try to just kiss up to Eric and be mean.
It's because you are free.
That's because I work for Speedo.
That's right. That's right. We're a Speedo team, and I don't want to mess up that business relationship. Again, thank you to all for listening, and we'll see you